Live from Austin, Texas on Saturday. It's Saturday, October 17th at 8 p.m. If you're watching this Saturday, October 17th, 8 p.m., you're watching it live. This is a live call-in show. My name is Terry Liberty Parker. This show is produced by Libertarians, and Libertarians have been doing this show since forever. It's one of the longest running access TV shows in Austin, Texas, which means like almost anywhere. And Libertarians believe that you should be in charge of your own life, not the politicians, the bureaucrats, and so forth. The basic premise, one way to state the premise other than the name of the show, Live and Let Live, one way to state the premise for all things libertarian is that no person can initiate or do a credible threat to initiate physical force against the person or justly acquired possessions of another. That's it. You're free to do everything else or anything else that you want to do so long as you don't violate that premise. And if you understand that premise, you don't need to go through a whole libertarian library of catechism in order to be able to take that premise and extrapolate some political position, and then you too can be one of those libertarian theoreticians if you want to. Or you can be like some of the other folks who actually fight in the trenches, do the day in, day out stuff in the political arena. We have one of those kind of people with us tonight. His name is Rock Howard. He is the Travis County Libertarian Party chairperson.
That's correct.
And you're also an entrepreneur.
Yes, I am, Terry. Thanks for having me back. It's always a pleasure to be here, and especially right in the middle of an election season when libertarians are getting more and more notice around the country and people are looking for alternatives. It's great that we're on the ballot and that you can vote for libertarians.
That's right. By the way, this is a call-in TV show, so you can call 472-CALL. That number will be on the screen every so often. If you've got an opinion about for or against things libertarian, if you've got a question about, well, what does that premise mean on this issue or that issue, or if you think that we're stating an issue well or badly from a libertarian premise. By the way, there's too much space up here, isn't there? This is live, folks. This show is live. And we have a highly trained technical personnel that are running back and forth behind the cameras. 472-CALL. Let the just hang in there with as we see you light up. If you're getting busy signals, just call back again. This is the season when libertarians do more than just I'm talking about the partisan libertarians do more than just some of the theoretical stuff. There's actual stuff going on.
Well, the Libertarian Party has been around for a while, and gradually the message of less government and more power for individuals, especially reducing the size and scope of federal government, is starting to take hold in this country, and we're real pleased to be part of that. And, of course, we're realistic. It's hard to use the voting box to cause what would literally be a revolution in terms of devolving power back to the people. But there's some precedents for third parties coming along and having much of their agenda pass through. For example, one of the most successful parties in this century has been the Socialist Party. And you wouldn't think of them being successful. In that
they hardly ever get anybody in the office.
They hardly do, and they only got about 250 candidates elected back toward the late 20s and so forth.
So how can they be thought of as successful in the contemporary political arena if they've hardly ever gotten anybody elected?
Well, what happened, of course, is that the agenda for the Socialist Party became more and more aligned with a populist movement that was co-opted basically by the Democratic Party and really brought to fulfillment with FDR. And so the socialist agenda, if you look back from the 1920s of their 10 top things they wanted to see, have all been enacted in this country mainly through the Democratic Party with, of course, some help from the Republican Party.
So if your purpose was to actually get ideas to be implemented in government, to become public policy, and if you didn't mind that it wasn't necessarily the guy with your label on it, well, then you were a success as a socialist.
Well, and it's already happening. More and more libertarian ideas, including several that even as little as 3, 4, 5 years ago were considered way off the political horizon, are now mainstream issues in Washington. Things like abolishing the IRS, things like privatizing Social Security, even consideration of legalization or
Repeal
repeal
of drug prohibition.
drug prohibition. Those sorts of issues now are very commonly discussed in Washington. Some of them are moving forward very rapidly, and these are part and parcel planks of the Libertarian Party and have been for a long time. And those ideas are starting to seep into the consciousness and seep into our mainstream politics. And as long as those ideas go forward, Libertarians have a lot of reason to be proud for what they're doing.
472 call, let the phone ring continuously. We'll get you live on the
Oh, and
telecast.
before we go to calls, Terry, just one thing. We got a lot of interesting announcements about things that are going on.
This table is a little uneven, and watch out for
Okay,
the
well,
vibration.
I'll be fine. And so we have a lot of interesting announcements. So stick with us for the hour if you would, because I think we have a lot of interesting things to talk about, activities and upcoming things you can be involved with.
Yes, caller?
Hi.
Yes.
Well, we're going to have to do better on the callers this week.
Are you still there?
That's a crank call.
All this time I thought you just liked fucking and beating up little boys. So all this time I thought you just liked fucking and beating.
Okay, so that we've now heard from the Democrats. Can we hear from the Republicans as well? Yes, caller.
Hello, Harriet. Yes, can you tell me about global warming?
Global warming.
Global warming. I'm not really educated on global warming. Is that a?
He's talking about it in terms of political issue, I guess. I don't know. Are you talking about
Have you
the
heard about
politi-
the fires in Brazil?
the fires in Brazil? Did you have something to do with the fires in Brazil?
No, I didn't have any.
Talk about that.
Mexico. There was the fires in Mexico that created the smoke.
Well, let's talk about Mexico for just a second. That actually brings me one of my topics today. So thanks for the call because
tacos.
yeah, let's talk about this. I'm sure you guys saw this.
Hello?
Yeah, stay with us. Stay with us.
Tacos with sour cream and cheese.
That was a Republican.
That was a Republican.
Okay.
It's hard to tell them apart these days.
Yeah, they
Okay,
do sound
I'm
like
sure
this.
you guys saw the Austin Chronicle issue with Lloyd Doggett all over the cover, splattered on here, about 7 pages of stuff, whatever. And something very interesting has happened that's come to light with the some of the things Lloyd has voted for. And let me just dive right in here.
Yeah.
I'm going to just read the letter I wrote to the Chronicle.
By the way,
which-
472 call. Let the call just hang in there, and we'll get to your calls. Also, if you have access to the World Wide Web, you can go to www.lp.org, and you can click on that, and there's all kinds of information about the Libertarian Party and about the philosophy behind it, and there's links to a lot of nonpartisan things that are freedom-oriented as well. That's a pretty good place to get some background information on the party, its philosophy, its history. By the way, for all of those of you who thought that it was the Democrats that, with Geraldine Ferraro, had made history by having a woman get an electoral vote in a national election, in a presidential race, Libertarians did it many years before. Back in 1972, Libertarian Party candidate Tony Nathan, as the vice presidential candidate of the Libertarian Party, was the first woman in the history of the United States to get an electoral vote. Not the Democrats. Okay. Have you got your
Yeah, I'm ready to go,
letter?
Terry. This is my letter. It's in. You can find this in the very latest Austin Chronicle, in its reaction to the Lloyd Doggett article. Let me begin. Letter's titled "Libertarians Say No to Doggett." Editors, I know that the Austin Chronicle thinks highly of Lloyd Doggett, but the October 9th issue was completely over the top, coming as it did in the thick of the electric season. As the Libertarian Party chair for Travis County, I must protest that his opponent, Vince May, his only opponent, by the way, did not receive a single photo or a sidebar to balance the 7 photographs and 6 pages of gushing coverage. While I was not surprised to learn that Lloyd has become a dedicated career politician worried about his personal future, I much prefer that he worry about the future of our state and our country. For example, I am completely mortified that Doggett voted to allow armed Mexican police into our country with complete diplomatic immunity. Let me read that again. Lloyd Doggett voted to allow armed Mexican police into our country with complete diplomatic immunity. Simultaneously, this same bill allows our government to send troops into Mexico and rain herbicides on Mexican indigenous populations. Now, I was completely shocked when I saw the text of this bill, and it's been passed by both the House and Senate. It's H.R. 4300. Look on the web, look in the Thomas system, 4300, and read it. Black and white, just what I told you. It's just amazing. So we're going to have armed Mexican police in our country doing whatever law enforcement, I guess, of Mexican laws. And if they should happen to
Screw up.
screw up, as they've been known to do, they will have complete immunity. Nothing,
Right.
nothing to
The
touch.
only thing that'll happen is they'll get a free ride home.
Unbelievable.
They won't go to jail for breaking in to somebody's home and gunning down the wrong people. They just get sent home.
Okay, also shameful is Doggett's vote against...
That was the Democrats who voted for that. That was your Democrat that is incumbent right now, Lloyd Doggett, that was on the Austin Chronicle. Hey, Lewis Black and company, hey, Austin Chronicle, you used to be the anti-establishment paper in this town. What the hell happened to you? What are you sucking ass for here? This is the Democrat establishment candidate votes to bring armed Mexican agents into the United States where they can gun down people in their own homes and complete immunity. They just get sent home. There is an opponent to this incumbent, Lloyd Doggett, the Libertarian Party candidate, Vince May. Why didn't you cover him? Why are you just prostituting the Austin Chronicle this way? And if you don't like the way I'm putting this, damn it, go look in the mirror, look at your own soul, look at what you started out to do, and look what the fuck you've become now. This is Access TV, by the way.
Terry, you're a wonder. Okay, let me finish my letter, which was slightly more civil, but which I think makes the points very well. I will continue. Also shameful is Doggett's vote against open debate amongst ballot-qualified presidential candidates. This you can look, Ron Paul actually set this House resolution forward. Now, I actually went to Lloyd and I asked him why he voted against this. And he said that too many candidates in the debates would confuse the voters. So I think we've heard that from the city council here in Austin, too,
Yes, that's
occasionally.
right.
We don't
Yeah.
want to confuse the voters.
Right.
Understand, when you hear don't want to confuse the voters, what they're saying is they don't want to give you a choice. This is happening all over the country. In Illinois, the Republicans and Democrats had voted 8-0 on a board to illegally take 7 libertarians off of the ballot in Illinois. And it was illegal by their own laws. Their own council who reviewed the petition signing and so forth said that the petitions were illegal, the libertarians had a right on the ballot, and the libertarians were kicked off by the combined work of the Democrats and the Republicans against their own laws.
Now, let's put that into the perspective of what goes on today in terms of how the public is chastised for being cynical about government and politicians, and how somehow you, the public, are wrong for not showing up to vote. And yet, this is the kind of baloney, this is the kind of sabotage of the public process that's being done by the Democrats and the Republicans. Where's your conscience? If you're a Democrat, if you're a Republican, play the game straight, or else quit chastising the public for not showing up for your stupid corruption.
All right, let me complete the letter here, Terry. Thank you.
Go for it.
I'm sure that most thinking Austinites are as disgusted as I am by the big money politics of the Democrats and Republicans as depicted on the show Frontline and elsewhere. While campaign reform is the typical mantra of the concerned citizenry, it is past time to realize that making the campaign financial maze increasingly more Byzantine won't dissuade the corporate rats from their cheese. The real solution is to reduce the power and scope of government to the core set of concerns outlined in our Constitution. Only then will multinational corporations and other old money institutions be unable to buy preference from our government, simply because that kind of power will no longer be for sale. Now, this, in this mind, is the really the crucial concept here of the libertarians, is that if we have a strong government, the people with the money will be able to take advantage of it and get stronger thereby.
Right.
And it's a point that I don't think our country has really woken up to, and that's the crucial reason that campaign finance reform, as it's currently being discussed by Democrats and Republicans, is hopeless.
Yeah.
Let me finish. If you agree, and I hope you do, Please join me this year in casting a vote that cannot be misunderstood. Vote for liberty. Vote against career politicians. And the way to do that is to vote Libertarian. That was my letter.
472 call, that was the letter from the Travis County Chair for the Libertarian Party responding to the coverage by the Austin Chronicle, lopsided coverage of just the establishment candidate, the incumbent, Lloyd Doggett, for U.S. Congress. There is an opponent. There is another choice on the ballot, the Libertarian Party candidate, Vince May. And to take what used to be known as the anti-establishment underground paper in this town, the Austin Chronicle, and you still get a lot of support from people in this community who have not woken up to how much you've prostituted yourself. That's either equipment falling over or it's thunder. I don't know if you can hear that over the microphones. Chronicle, where is your soul? Why are you sucking up to the establishment? Why are you undermining the democratic process that you say you believe in by doing all this coverage of the incumbent and no coverage of the only opponent on the ballot? 472 call. By the way, if you want more information about the Libertarian Party than just what you're getting on this show, if you've got internet access, or just go to the library and you can get internet access, lp.org. That's www.lp.org. You can get a lot of information about the party, about its history, the philosophy, and links to a lot of other freedom-oriented organizations. Okay, 472 call. Lines are jammed, but we're going to try to get through these calls as fast as we can. Yes, caller. Okay, and that's the Republican response. Yes, caller.
Hey, Terry, good evening. And hello, Mr. Rockhauer, how are you?
Hi.
Hey, for that previous caller, there is no global warming, you're being fooled. A liberal will tell you how to spend your money, or will tell you how to spend your money, but will not tell you how to lead your life. A Republican will tell you you can spend your money any way you want, but will tell you how to live your life. And a Libertarian will not tell you how to spend your money and will not tell you how to live your life.
Right.
And
That's a pretty good summary.
An authoritarian will tell you how to spend your money and how to run your life.
Got it.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it is. It's not a left-right thing.
No,
it's
exactly.
how much do you want to run your own life versus having been told what to do. It's a completely different dimension, and I'm glad people are waking up to that.
Exactly.
You summarized it beautifully.
One coin, exactly. When I drive a tow truck in this town, and I talk to a lot of people, and they're waking up to the fact that, hey, they know that they're being fooled by the mainstream media, the Austin Un-American Statesman, and these bureaucrats that we
And now the Austin Chronicle. What, have you been in this town for very long?
25 years.
Yeah, okay, so you know what I'm talking about. When I'm saying, what happened to these guys? These guys were who we used to look to. We used to look up to them as, okay, these are the radicals. These are the ones who are going to be giving us the news that we don't get because of the establishment paper, the Austin American paper.
Well, didn't they get bought by the Un-American Statesman in '88, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it?
No, they decided to run their paper on those presses.
Well, just like J.P. Morgan did back in 1914, to when he looked around at John D. Rockefeller and the Bilderbergers and the Vanderbilts and House and Senator Aldrich. How are we going to get away with such a scam on the American people? J.P. Morgan went and bought 35 of the most influential magazines in the United States, and then hired editors. And it's been going on ever since then. They first stepped in 1863. Then their final blow was in 1913 with the Federal Reserve Act, which was the biggest scam in American history. And then in 1933 with the New Deal, they've been slowly creeping up on us. And that's and we're being fooled and conned by what we see on CNN and the mainstream media. And
yeah.
People are finally beginning to realize that.
And now add the Austin Chronicle to that list. All of you people in the audience who thought you had a radical paper in this town that challenged the establishment. The Austin Chronicle just covered the establishment candidate, gushed all about him, didn't say anything about the anti-establishment candidate, the only other choice on the ballot, the Libertarian Party candidate, Vince May, not one peep. And the Chronicle is supposed to be supporting democratic process.
Terry, they didn't even call us. They didn't even call Vince or Vince's campaign manager, Phil Durgan. They didn't call me as chair. They didn't even make an effort.
Now, the Libertarian Party is in the phone book, 467-1776. The number's in the phone book. If they really wanted to be a newspaper, a journal, something that the Austin Chronicle was supposed to be, they could have just picked up the phone. They could have just looked in the phone book for Libertarian Party, 467-1776. There's the number. They could have gotten information about the other candidate for the U.S. Congress instead of just prostituting themselves. Man, you expect it from the Statesman, but the Chronicle, I want to hear from people in the audience that thought the Chronicle was their paper to give them the scoop on things.
I've known for a long time they're not. Well, I'll tell you what, guys. You have a good evening. And all you callers up here that call up and laugh and sneak and giggle, I'm telling you, you are duped. If you do not wake up and you come up and you call into these stations and you laugh at us and blah, 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 well, then I'm sorry to tell you, but you have been so...
They don't spoil our fun for us here, you know?
What's that now?
No, I'm just kidding. Thanks a lot for the call, and keep your chin up. The media is, the whole situation with the media is slowly turning, because now there are alternate forms of media becoming available.
That's right.
There is internet, there are alternate radio.
Access TV.
Now, we do have to watch our government, because they want to come in there and squelch these alternate forms and
Exactly. Well, I
censor
think
them
it's
and so
about time.
forth. Keep your eyes open about that. But if they
Exactly.
fail to do that, we're going to have our message out there more and
We
more.
will prevail. We're going to win this thing.
Absolutely.
God bless the
One way or
Republic,
another.
And long live the Constitution.
I just hope
of the
it's by the voting box and not by some other mechanism.
No, we cannot arm ourselves because that's what they want. So we're going to have it. We're going to have to voice our opinion out there, and then let them. But they're going to come and get us. Those who stand up for this, I really truly believe that.
It may come to that. You're very right. Let's go on.
Bye bye.
Thanks for the call. Yep, there's, what is it? Let me see. You got the ballot box, you got the jury box, and then ultimately the bullet box or something like that. Yes, caller.
The sky is falling. It's the chilling effect.
Okay, well, that's the response from the Democrats who are defending Lloyd Doggett, who think that it's great that Lloyd Doggett voted for the measure that brings Mexican armed agents into this country to gun down people in their own homes in the name of the war on drugs and to be totally immune from prosecution. That was one of the supporters for Lloyd Doggett and that policy. Yes, okay. We want more calls supporting or opposed to those policies. Yes. Yes, caller.
Hello?
Go ahead.
That's you.
Hey, I just turned 18, and
Did you register to vote?
About politics, and I don't know who to vote for.
Well, it's pretty simple. You can,
What's this party that y'all are, the Libertarian Party?
yeah, it's on my shirt here.
Do you have access to the internet?
There it is.
Yeah, I sure do.
All right, go to www.lp.org, and what you'll click on there is an excellent site that is loaded with information. There it is there. It's loaded with information about the party, about its philosophy, and about links to other freedom-oriented organizations.
Let's go on.
Yes, caller.
Yes. Hello?
Yes,
Go ahead.
this is you.
Yes. I hope I don't get electrocuted holding the phone right now.
It's a little dangerous.
Get away from that window.
Yeah. Okay. Lloyd Doggett also voted to not impeach President Clinton. I don't know if you're familiar with
Yeah, I believe you're correct. That the Democrats did a very nice job of giving themselves a few different provisions to vote for, so they could have some cover on this. And he voted for it in one set of circumstances and against it another. Boy, they're very good at this. Let me give you another good example. Look on page 21 of the Chronicle about back to school. And this is the whole thing. I'm not going to read the whole thing. The thing about the School of the Americas, which is this ridiculous school in Fort Benning, Georgia, where they train Latin American soldiers to come here and learn how to do state police work and so forth. And Lloyd Doggett,
At taxpayer expense.
at our taxpayer expense, yes. And Lloyd Doggett, to his credit, voted against this, which
What?
of course, libertarians commend and would do likewise. But what was not covered in the Chronicle, and maybe you didn't know, is that when the funding provision came up for this very same bill, Lloyd Doggett voted for the funding. So now,
Let's
no
just
matter,
get this straight. The Chronicle reports that he voted against this measure, that of course most people who read the Chronicle would be against the idea of our country training the military police for these Latin American dictators. doing it with our resources and stuff. So they reported that Doggett voted against that. They didn't report that Doggett voted for the funding to do it.
Right. So he gets political cover. And this is not uncommon,
good.
which a lot of very shrewd politicians, I take nothing away from Lloyd Doggett. He is very shrewd, and he knows how to work both sides of the fence. But when they get opportunities to vote up on and down on the same issue, and then if it becomes a hot thing that explodes in their face, they can point at the way they voted that's convenient. So these guys are more into it to keep their jobs. They don't want to lose their cushy paychecks. They don't want to lose their pensions. That's what they're in it for. There's very little else going on here other than that. And libertarians are about, let's get this back to citizen statesmen. Let's get people into office who'll go in, do the job of reducing government, and then get out of it and go back to the private sector. This thing about politicians for life has got to end. And it's got to end with the voters making it end.
United States Congressman Joseph Kennedy came down to Texas last year in January of 1997 to gather support against the School of the Americas, and he held one of his fundraisers to gather money to campaign against the School of the Americas at Bertram's Restaurant, and he also held one at Las Bonitas on Congress, and I believe Congressman Lloyd Doggett was a supporter when he was down here and more or less sponsored Congressman Joseph Kennedy when he came down to Texas to campaign against the School of the Americas.
Sure. He got a lot of good posturing, looking like to the people who were against having our government train the military police for Latin American dictators. He got a lot of popular support by going out there and posturing that way at a lot of these left-wing places. I know where Las Manitas is. It's a great place to eat, but we're not running an ad for him. So, but then turns around and votes for the funding to do it.
He also
And where's the reportage in the Chronicle that he did that? Chronicle, at least be professional. I mean, if you're going to prostitute your paper, at least prostitute it as a professional journal. Tell the story. And by the way, there is an opponent to Lloyd Doggett in the race. You have the choice for U.S. Congress of the establishment candidate, the Democratic incumbent Lloyd Doggett, or the Libertarian Party challenger for U.S. Congress, that's Vince May. There is a choice, although you wouldn't know it from the Austin Chronicle.
May I make a suggestion?
Yes, please.
I've heard that rather than vote Democratic, Libertarian, or Republican, that there's a new movement surfacing right now, and that movement is to just vote against the incumbent.
Well, voting against the incumbent is always a good thing, and you're going to get lots of opportunities to do that this election, and I think that's a good thing. There are many situations where the Libertarian Party is the only party putting up a candidate against the incumbent. So if you follow that dictate, you're going to get to vote for lots of Libertarians, and that's fine. I should point out that there's another interesting reason to vote Libertarian.
Before you do one of the,
Yes.
there are a lot of Libertarians who have been elected to office.
Oh, yeah. We've had about 250 Libertarians elected to office, mostly within the last 5 and 6 years.
Yeah.
And
Including right here in Travis County.
we're running more candidates than ever. Almost 1,000 candidates across the country, and the Libertarian Party is growing in leaps and bounds too. Let me give you a couple more reasons to vote Libertarian this time. For one thing, if you just want to break the two-party monopoly, in Texas, your only other party on the ballot is the Libertarians. And the Libertarians have been foursquare behind the notion that the political process needs to be opened up. Ballot access should be easier. We should have more candidates on the ballot representing more points of view. And so if you're in one of those camps where you're looking at the Reform Party or the Greens or one of these other parties, voting Libertarian is a way to help your party. Because the more that people see that third parties are getting support, the more seriously all third-party candidates are being taken. And a good example of this is when the polls went out about 3 months ago from the Texas poll, and for the first time they asked people, are you supporting Democrats, Republicans, or do you consider yourself independent, or do you support a third party? And for the first time, they got a significant response of people saying, I support a third party. 12% of Texans said, I support a third party. Given that, they felt they had no choice but to start putting the libertarian names on the subsequent polls. And sure enough, the libertarians are doing well in the polls compared with what they thought. Instead of getting 1-2%, libertarians are getting 5%, 7% in statewide races. And this trend can continue. We can see more choices, more parties, and so forth. Vote libertarian. Thanks for the call, by the way.
Thank you, caller. You're watching Live and Let Live. This show is produced by libertarians. Libertarians say that, well, they say live and let live, the name of the show. Another way to state the premise is that no person can initiate or do a credible threat to initiate physical force against the person or justly acquired possessions of another. Other than that prohibition, you're free to do anything you want. And that prohibition, by the way, in my opinion, is pretty much the premise that exists in any scenario that looks like a free civilized society throughout history or around the world today. No matter what else people believe about things, you're not going to have a free civilized society if you don't adhere to that physical aggression truce that says you don't swing first on the other person or steal their stuff. Libertarians are committed to that premise. The other two major parties that are the establishment parties are committed to pitting you folks against each other, locking you in an endless war between the left and the right. And the left and the right is a phony baloney spectrum. You've got libertarians on the left, you've got libertarians on the right. What makes them libertarians is that they are not in favor of violating that physical aggression truce for whatever it is that's on the left or right side that is their part of their agenda. The authoritarians, which is the opposite of libertarians, are the ones who are always looking for the government to ram something down your throat. And I guess it's to the credit of our population today that most people are pretty cynical about politicians and government. I'll be 54 in another couple of weeks, so I've been around for long enough to see our population change in its attitude from one of regarding any cynicism about government as being sort of like, oh, there's something wrong with that person, they're a sociopath. Now, anybody who is Pollyannish about government is thought of as being having something wrong with them, a screw loose or something.
Let's say, a lot of people accuse the Libertarian Party of being kind of ideological and philosophical. Let's get down to practicalities. I mean, I got a haircut today. I don't know if they did a good job, but the thing that shocked me as I was done with my haircut, they wouldn't brush me off. They would not pick up a brush and brush me off, so it's kind of scratchy. They would hand me a towel and let me towel myself off, but they wouldn't brush me off like they've done my whole adult life, and even when I was a kid. They put talcum powder on, brush you off, very nice, and you feel better because of it. They won't do that anymore when you go to the barbershop.
Rock, the brush off is politically incorrect.
So what's going on? The government has decided that brushes at barbershops can possibly transmit head lice, I suppose, and so they're changing the rules, and you can't use a brush if you're running a barbershop anymore. You have to offer your customer a towel, and maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's not, but do we really want government deciding that? I mean, I kind of miss that brush already, It's like, anyway, there are better ways to get things done than having the government make those kind of requirements on small business and so forth.
472 call. Phone lines are jammed. We'll try to get through your calls as fast as we can. You're watching Live and Let Live, show produced by libertarians. And speaking of haircuts, show produced by libertarians. And if you want information in addition to what you're getting here, you can call the Libertarian Party at 467-1776. Isn't that a nice number? 467-1776. You'll get an outgoing recording that plugs you into other information. You can also leave your name there, and somebody will call you back. Also, if you have internet connection, you can log on to www.lp.org. That site contains a lot of information about the party, its background, its philosophy, and links to other sites that are freedom-oriented as well.
And by the way, if you go to that site, there's a form there that you can fill out, and you can check a box saying, I'd like information. And the National Party will send you a very nice information kit. And furthermore, your name will get sent back to our state party here in Texas, and you will be contacted very quickly by someone in your area. Probably if you're watching here, it would be in Travis County. And we can contact you and answer your questions about the party and so forth.
And if you don't get a chance to get in on the show here, and it's 472 call, just keep trying to get in. But if you don't get it said here, every Sunday evening, Libertarians have an informal discussion group down at Hickory Street Bar and Grill, 8th and Congress, from about 7 onward, 6:37 onward. People drift in, they drift out. It's not formal. There's nobody gaveling a meeting to order. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 people there, sometimes a couple of dozen people there. But it's a good place to come in, ask questions. They can be hostile questions, or just network. Just meet people who are libertarians, or people who are interested in libertarians. You don't have to be a libertarian to show up there. That's Hickory Street Bar and Grill, 8th and Congress, every Sunday evening, informal discussion. When you come in the door, look to the right. There'll be a couple of tables pushed together and people chatting about politics usually. Yes, caller.
Good evening, Terry. I'm glad I got through.
Yeah.
I'd like to agree with the libertarian independent philosophy of reduced government.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure that the people out there that are watching this program, that we achieve the objective, which is to send the right message to those people.
That's one of the beauties. That's one of the beauties about voting Libertarian this time around, is it is an unequivocal message. There's so many cases now where you vote Democrat or Republican, and you're not sending any message at all because they're so hard to tell apart in many cases.
We need another alternative. And Terry, what I'd like to find out, I want to make sure that they get the right message. Talk about nudity, please.
My name is Terry Liberty Parker. If you saw the article in the August 2nd Austin American Statesman in the front page of the Life and Arts section, there's this guy holding up a girl, and it's at the reunion for the clothing optional apartment community, which was started back here, started in Austin back in the late 70s.
They understand what clothing optional means, because a lot
clothing
of
optional means you can wear clothes or not, and the Libertarians that was a Libertarian project. I was the one who founded that project at the time during the late 70s. Oddly enough, most of the folks thought Libertarians were just this little narrow branch of right-wing Republicans or something. So we said, well, that doesn't really, that's kind of a limited view of the premise, so here's something else. And so that also became famous. It was written up by the New York Times and got a lot of other publicity. I was on the Phil Donahue show doing it for that one too. The point being is that the personal freedom agenda is just as strong with Libertarians as the economic freedom agenda.
That's exactly right. And now, Rock.
Yes.
Rock, by the way, is the Travis County Libertarian Party chairperson and therefore an official mouthpiece.
Oh, and I should say,
How do you feel about nudity, Rock?
I have nothing at all to do with nudity. I'm not interested in it. I don't go to his parties. It's not for me. It's not my cup of tea. But you're going to let me live my life being not interested in nudity, I'm sure.
Oh, sure, but I want to make sure if the voters vote for the Libertarian Party, they have to understand that they are voting for nudists.
No, they're
not.
Worldwide organization of people that do not wear clothing and have long dones.
Well, we can't
wait. Let me straight.
But
First off, I'm not a nudist. Okay?
I think I've seen you before, you little pea.
You're not making a very good representation for your case. I'm not a nudist. In Austin, if you're trying to make the case that people who go casually nude in Austin, man, are you out of touch with this community.
No. I'm saying that if someone saw you nude, it'd be a chilling effect.
Well, I hope it never happens to me, frankly. So I'm going to agree with you, the caller, a little bit on this one. I was not around here when this whole nudist thing was happening. I moved to Austin.
It's not a nudist thing. It's not a nudist thing.
That is libertarian nudist, libertarian nudist, libertarian nudist, libertarian nudist, libertarian.
Okay. The reason that I don't use the word nudist is because that's a formal organization that sometimes takes positions that are just as anathema to me as a libertarian as the establishment position. A lot of nudists will take the position that you are of dictating that you be naked, which is just as wrong as dictating that you have clothes on. So,
I am just thrilled, and we're seeing this all across the board. I am thrilled with the reaction that libertarians are now getting from so many other politicians and so many of the races we're in and so forth, because we're in many races across the country, we're making a big difference in terms of who gets elected and so forth. And you're seeing more and more attacks on libertarians, and it's a great, it's healthy, it's good. We welcome.
We've gone
attacks,
from being ignored to being attacked. We're successful now. Yes, caller.
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, how you doing?
Hanging in there.
Good.
Yep.
Yeah, I heard your comments earlier about authoritarianism, I guess.
Yes.
I would take it that you're against that.
Authoritarianism?
Sure.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Yeah, I guess.
And this is Rock Howard, who is the Travis County Libertarian Party chairperson, and therefore can speak to the official position on things.
Very proud of you, Rock. The fact is that I guess I'm just trying to establish a little foreground before I'd make my point that if somebody who tends to, let's say, run to authorities, and do things that are for an unjust nature, would it fall in line with your premise if their physical, well-being or space is not being violated, that that there wouldn't be any sort of problem with confronting that particular individual?
Could you rephrase the question in a form that someone could actually understand what you're asking? Thank you.
I'd be happy to do that. There's a hello.
Yes, go ahead.
There's a particular incident which has occurred recently, which is really kind of upsetting to me.
Okay.
Some guy, I think his name is Alice Jones or something. He recently. This man has a long history of confronting people rather vigorously. All from state representatives all the way down to your common milkman. And
I was there at one incident like that. I happened to be in line to meet Lloyd Doggett, and he got into a yelling match with him.
Great, yeah, I was there too. And
Alex is in my mind, is a pretty harmless individual, though. But yeah, it's a little uncomfortable to watch him in action.
Right. Well, harmless, I don't know about, because there's an event recently. There's some other producer who he recently had suspended or something like that. And there's a few more incidences of this in this regard. And I've watched videotaped evidence of this incident, and this is nothing but not even a fraction of what Mr. Alice Jones has done. In the company of myself and Mr. Rock Howard there in front of our state representative to the House of Congress, and I feel, do you people believe that this is an authoritarian type of position, that this may be a little bit hypocritical type? Well,
first off, I've never met this guy. I don't know anything about his.
Sir, I'm not asking you to make a personal assessment of him. I'm asking your opinion about this particular situation.
Okay, which particular thing?
The one I just framed for you, sir. Do you think it's an authoritarian position for one to, let's say, run to authorities anytime someone wants to do what they do on a regular basis in the same and similar fashion that they do it? Do you think that is hypocritical and authoritarian?
From what you're describing, it sounds. But I'm not familiar with the incident.
Well, I'd have to agree with you about that. And I am pretty familiar with the incident, and I'm fairly outraged about it. I feel that those people who like to stand back and complain about police states being in effect, and those who claim that our freedoms are being infringed upon, seem, in my view, to be all too comfortable with stepping to the authority figures in some matter and maybe crying to the teacher, so to speak. I think it's absolutely repugnant, and as libertarians, I'm just curious about your view of authoritarians.
Well, I don't spend any time lobbying the state capitol for anything. I do occasionally go down to the city council and give the libertarian viewpoint on issues. I think it's important for us to communicate with our government, and I urge you to do the same. Right. I do think that that is certainly one of the freedoms that is precious for our country, to be able to talk to our elected officials and let them know what we think.
Okay.
And that's about all I have to say about that.
The last thing I'll say is, do not vote for Vincent May in the election. He is an incompetent man and to serve in public office, and I feel it would be a waste of one's vote to vote for him. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Christian.
472 call, and we'll try to get your calls in. My name's Terry Liberty Parker. Our guest today is Rock Howard, the Travis County Libertarian Party chairperson. You're watching the show live Saturday, October 17th. And if you don't get it said on the show here, Libertarians do meet there's an informal discussion group every Sunday evening down at Hickory Street Bar and Grill, 8th and Congress.
Well, let me also talk about some of our other upcoming
There's
meetings.
some
I
other
hate to
meetings,
keep
too?
all these
No.
callers. I mean, it's absolutely jam-packed tonight, which is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
But we got a couple other meetings coming up as well, and you might want to get pen and paper. The first one that's coming up is going to be election night on November 3rd, Tuesday, November 3rd. Libertarians will be having their victory party.
Victory celebration.
And you can come join us and you can cheer in the results. I think we're going to have our best year ever in Texas and just across the board. And we'd be happy to have you join us. We'll be at the filling station, which is on Barton Springs Road, kind of near Palmer Auditorium there. And I guess we'll be filtering in there after the polls close, 7:30.
Is there a special room or what have you?
We're going to have, they've set aside a room in the back, and we'll be there.
All right, Libertarians are going to be doing some backroom deals right there
Well,
on election night.
mostly we're going to be partying. After all, it is a
Backroom
party.
Partying,
right?
all right. Yeah. Okay, yes, caller.
Hello?
Yes, this is you.
Yeah, I'm wondering if either of you could comment on what the government is trying to do to Microsoft and Bill Gates right now.
Well, that's an interesting
Let me
question.
credentialize Rock. Rock Howard is not only the chair of the Travis County Libertarian Party, but he's an entrepreneur who is actually in the computer industry.
Oh, that's true. Well, the government, unfortunately, is kind of incompetent to really do the case they're trying to do against Microsoft, and so I think there's going to be a lot of huffing and puffing, but they're probably going to be unable to really accomplish much. What's interesting to me is Microsoft has done some things that I consider to be unethical and that I think are dubious in practice, possibly illegal. But none of those things are what the government's going after him for. The things the government is going after him for, I think, really don't hold a pail of water. So, in particular, the government case having to do with the browsers and so forth, I just don't see it. So I kind of have a mixed mind. I don't think Microsoft is a brilliant libertarian organization and that they've done anything good for. I mean, let me tell you, Microsoft is suddenly spending a lot of money on lobbyists, lobbying Democrats and Republicans, and I don't see them supporting our party. So I don't think as Microsoft is a friend of liberty, but I think they're going to win the case. I don't think the government has a good case against them. I think the government has this kind of, government rarely does things competently. I guess that's what I'd say.
Caller?
What do you think?
It seems like they're just attacking him because he's wealthy and has, made an astounding success in a short period of time from a.
Well, the cynics might say not so much that he's just been wealthy and successful, but he was wealthy and successful, and he wasn't paying any tribute in the form of lobbying money or anything to the powers that be on Capitol Hill, and they needed to slap him down so that he would, in fact, start spending money on candidates and PACs and all this kind of stuff. And that's the cynical view. It might have a little bit of truth in there. I don't know.
Okay,
all right, thanks, caller. Rock, what is the company you head up?
Oh, my company is Tower Technology, and yes, we do business with Microsoft on occasion. Of course, just about anybody in the industry we'll do business with.
And that was not an ad. It was credentializing Rock to speak to that issue raised by the caller. Yes, caller.
I've got a couple of quick questions.
Go for it.
What do y'all guys think about the government passing off the Long Beach Naval Base to the Chinese? That's
kind of not in favor of that one. I don't think that's a very good idea somehow.
Okay, that's my first question. Second, what do you think about our city council putting out bonds for me and you? And
well, let me say something about the bonds. You bring up a very good point. I spoke against the bonds. I stood in front of the committee that made the recommendations to the council about the bonds. And I said, these bonds are not a good idea. We're raising taxes further. More and more people are going to lose their homes. Let's cut back on the size of these bonds if we have to do them. Most of the bonds are not justified. There are a few that may be, in terms of core infrastructure, but by and large, most of the money is being misspent. It's going down a rat hole. And not only, I mean, the board that I spoke to was very attentive. A couple of them even came up to me afterwards and thanked me for saying what I had to say. But when they reported to the city council, they said, and this was actually in the Statesman, they reported that no one stood up against the bonds in those meetings. So I may have been 1 out of 100 to speak against them, but they had the audacity to say that no one spoke against them. And therefore, my feeling is that the council has to be shown that this kind of approach of getting Austin more and more in debt and using taxpayer money to do all these fundings of these activities, we have to stop it somehow. And the only way, unfortunately, in our system, since if you stand up and talk to them, they'll say you didn't. They'll say that no one stood up and said anything against it, even if you do. Maybe the only way to show them is to vote no on the bonds, and that's what I recommend. Vote no on all the bonds across the board until they wake up.
Okay, in particular, I was talking about the bonds where they bought land and the recharge zone.
I'm a big believer in the approach that the nature conservatives and some of these other groups take, where they try to privatize these things, take it out of government. Let individuals donate land, let individuals donate money to buy land, and let private stewards be stewards of this land, because the government just has a way of screwing it up. I mean, there's already been land purchased by the government that was quote-unquote important for them to own for environmental reasons, and then they go do a horse swap, and they swap some of this land for some other land. Well, if it was so important for them in the first place, if it was so precious in the first place that the government had to own it, what are they doing this horse swapping about? What's that about?
Right. And the last thing I wanted to ask is, what is your opinion on $18 billion to the IMF?
Well, that is a very, very tragic mistake that our government has just made again. Let me give you just a little background here.
IMF, by the way, is
International Monetary Fund. It was set up, I don't know the exact year, but it was late 50s, early 60s. It was set up as part of the Bretton Woods Pact. And basically the role of the IMF was all these currencies across the world were being pegged together, and there needed to be a group that was in charge of making sure that these pegs were maintained, because that's the way the current monetary system was set up. And remember, the dollar was pegged to gold, and all the currencies around the world were pegged to each other. And this system was set up to help the global economy recover after World War II and so forth. And so that's how the IMF was set up. Well, guess what happened? Bretton Woods went away. The gold standard, the dollar went off the gold standard. All these pegs went away. And the IMF had nothing to do. They had no agenda, but they had a huge bureaucracy. So what they said was, let's find some other business for us to get into. So they cozied up to the World Bank and said, hey, we're going to be an insurance company where we can bail out economies that have trouble. And they got countries to send lots of money to them for this purpose. But what it did is it set up a system where banks could go into third world countries and do loans that were not wise, that were not based on principles of actually improving the economy.
But did help those dictators in charge.
Yeah, help the crony capitalism of the dictators and their brothers-in-laws who ran their banks and so forth.
Right.
Well,
And then the money was there from the IMF to bail out those bankers who made those bad investments.
Exactly.
It's happening over and over again, and it's continuing to happen. And Milton Friedman was very clear about it. A lot of the current problem
Libertarian and Nobel Prize-winning economist Milton Friedman.
Yeah, he said right along, the IMF is a sham, what it's doing now, and in many respects is causing a lot of the dislocation we're seeing now.
Well, it seems like all that money is just gone to bail out people that made bad investments. And I appreciate your dialogue, and y'all guys have a good evening. Okay?
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for the call. And if you want information beyond what you get on this show about the Libertarians, you can go to a website, www.lp.org, and you'll get lots of information about not only the party, but the philosophy, the party's background, and links to a lot of other freedom-oriented organizations. Or you can just pick up the phone and call 467-1776. You'll get an outgoing message that'll put you in contact with a lot of different libertarian stuff. And you can even leave a message for somebody to call you.
And you can also ask about information about upcoming events. And let me go over them one time. I hope you still have your pencil and paper nearby. We have a couple other interesting things happening. I already mentioned our victory party on November 3rd at the filling station. Show up about 7:30, or actually we'll be there the whole evening. So feel free to drop in and say hi, and we'll be happy to talk with you there. Also on December 5th, Saturday, December 5th, we have a supper club meeting that's going to be at the Spaghetti Warehouse, and we have a speaker named Barbara Gushow, who's a nationally known libertarian. And Barbara spoke at our state Texas convention last summer and gave a great talk. Her talk was called Handguns Are a Girl's Best Friend. And this was a delightful talk that thrilled and amazed the audience. And Barbara's going to be back in Austin talking, and you need to call our number, 467-1776, so that we can give you details about when and where, what time, and some of the details about this particular event. But you're not going to want to miss that. That's the Libertarian Supper Club on the evening of December 5th.
And if you don't get it said on the show here tonight, we'll try to get through these calls, but also every Sunday evening, Libertarians have an informal discussion at Hickory Street Bar and Grill at 8th and Congress. It's a salad bar. At 8th and Congress, it's the northwest corner of 8th and Congress. When you walk in the door, look to your right, there's usually a couple of tables pushed together, and there's anywhere from 2 or 3 libertarians to a couple of dozen libertarians, depending on what's going on. And you don't have to be a libertarian to show up there. You don't have to agree with libertarians to show up there. You can ask hostile questions, or you can just sit down and kind of network, see what's going on, that sort of thing. Yes, caller.
Let's go. Let's try to find a call here that's interesting.
I don't know. Is there any of this
Come on,
going anywhere?
We got a lot of calls here.
Okay.
Let's go.
Yes, caller.
Hello. If you're new to the clothing optional event and you go Microsoft, where it climbs back up inside like a turtle head.
Is this a hard question?
With the same,
We got lots of calls.
assurance, or does it give you a chilling effect?
It's a hard question. Yes,
Hey, I
caller.
know that guy. His name was Anthony. Hi, Anthony. Hey, Terry, I'm gonna. My comment is on the caller that was asking or was commenting about authoritarianism. His name is
Authoritarianism.
Authoritarian, right? His name is Christian Side. He is a paid a government provocateur. Every time that proof is put out, he comes up and starts and he causes trouble like this. He is
Whatever. If he's not very effective anyway, so we don't worry about him too
God
much.
bless Alex Jones, you
But-
make me sick, Christian Side.
Go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead.
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot for the information.
Yes, caller. Quickly, we're right at the end.
Yes, good evening. I was just curious as to whether either of you would consider perhaps leaving some Grecian formula for the rest of us.
Do you dye your hair? Only your hairdresser knows for sure. I don't know. Why does he care? Gosh. Yes, caller.
Hello, how you doing, fellas?
Yeah.
We've had that call before.
Yeah, come on. Let's get a better quality of crank call here. Look, Democrats and Republicans, if you want to do crank calls, you have to raise the caliber of the call. This is why people are cynical about you guys. Yes, caller.
Mr. Parker, yes, Rock, I hear y'all take your clothes off. That ain't right, son.
Hey, sir.
Run for
Do you take your clothes off to take a shower?
Not take your clothes
Do you
off.
take your clothes off to take a shower?
Mr. Rock,
Do you take your clothes off to take a shower?
What the hell?
Oh, he's not responding. Yes, caller.
I'd just like to comment that last caller was Christian Side. His genitals are much too large for him to be messing with me. I'd like him to come up because I think that he could kick the shit out of me if he felt like it. I think he could just kick the living shit out of me if I felt like it.
We're down to the last minute here. Again, if you didn't get it said here in the show, okay, here we'll do this one of the. Okay, Sharon's in the other room, so she can't do this. Okay, if you didn't get it said on the show here, first of all, stay tuned because Smash the State with Gary Johnson will be coming on right after this show, right here on this channel. Don't touch the dial. And if you didn't get it said on the show here, you can show up at Hickory Street Bar and Grill At 8th and Congress, every Sunday evening, informal discussion. Libertarians, there's nobody gaveling a meeting to order. You can just come and go as you please. Come in the door, turn right, and you'll see some tables pushed together. You can bring hostile questions or friendly questions or just meet and network. Also, 467-1776. You can call that number. There's an outgoing message that'll give you a lot of information about upcoming events. If you don't take control of your life, somebody else probably will.